Oh God, Dane.
While creating video game tier lists designed to rate classes, weapons, and most commonly party members, I've come across a misconception from my viewers, and that is that I'm wrong. Because character A can beat the game in under an hour. I will often get comments on my tier list telling me that my rating is off because a certain party member is used effectively in a speedrun. Most of the time, these viewers are objectively wrong. Just because a character is amazing in a speedrun doesn't mean that in an optimal run, one where time isn't a factor, they are also amazing. But this got me thinking, who are the strongest, most broken RPG characters in speedrunning? Which characters are able to manipulate the game in a way that turns a standard 40 to 50 hour playthrough into a 10-hour run? Today, this list sets out to answer just that. Now, this took me a lot of time and research. Though RPG speedruns are faster than a normal RPG, they still take quite a while. Because of this, if you're new to the channel, I'd appreciate your support by subscribing and clicking the bell. While you're at it, why don't you check out my perks for Patreon members as well? With all that out of the way, I present to you my top 5 most broken RPG speedrun characters. Number 5. Final Fantasy X has had a fascinating speedrun history. So much so that there are 4 official categories and about a dozen unofficial categories. But the one we're going to talk about today is the category No Sphere Grid. Your character's skills, stats, and abilities level up with a grid of spheres. Placing a sphere in a node can net you things like spells, stat boosts, passive abilities, and much more. Obviously, if you take out the sphere grid, a player is going to have a much more difficult time beating this title. That is, if Rikku didn't completely break this game with her Chemist Overdrive. You see, each character has an overdrive that can be used when the overdrive meter is full. Most of these are centered around damage, but Rikku's is unique. Her ability allows her to combine items gathered from enemies to produce hundreds of different effects. These can range from buffing the party, inflicting status ailments on enemies, and yes, damaging them as well. Now, you don't get Rikku immediately. In fact, she's the last party member you obtain, so this speedrun needs to pull off a few tricks before getting there. Luckily, you acquire this quirky girl before the difficulty ramps up. Now obviously you need her overdrive in order to use the mix ability. In a typical run, this is done by taking or dealing damage, but speedrunners use a trick where they have a single party member flee the battle and allow the remaining party members to be killed. When a party member is knocked out of commission, they get a massive boost to their overdrive gauge. This means that runners can set up Rikku with her mix ability for any difficult battle. There are a bunch of important items that players will either steal or find that Rikku can use in her mixes. One of the more important ones are the Wings of Discovery found in the Chocobo races. These items, when combined with each other, cause the effect Trio of 9999, which makes every attack do 9,999 damage. Combined with the other players' overdrives, runners can take out pretty much every remaining boss using this strategy. Watching this run is insanely impressive because of the sheer complexity of obtaining mix items and manipulating bosses, and all of that is thanks to Rikku. Number 4. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has a very small speedrunning community. On speedrun.com, it looks like there are about 117 players. When this title was first released, speedruns of this game were being completed in about 4.5 hours. That is until the DLC was dropped. In Xenoblade 2, you can use crystal cores to draw characters called blades. These blades can then be equipped on party members, giving them specific abilities, elements, stats, and attacks. Now, the crystal system works just like a gacha mechanic, meaning that whatever blade you draw is random. At least most of the time. Because of this, speedruns of Xenoblade 2 had wildly different times. Which blade you drew determined which strategy you used. Enter the DLC and the character Crossette. Crossette changed the entire Xenoblade 2 speedrun as she has a 100% chance of being drawn from her crystal and comes with some game-shattering abilities that allow a player to beat this title in under 3.5 hours. Now, you may be asking yourself, how does one character shave off one entire hour off of a speedrun? Well, just know that the DLC provides a few other benefits aside from Crossette, but she is the main one. There are a plethora of reasons why Crossette is broken. First of all, she has the highest natural defense and ether defense of almost any other blade in the game. This makes her incredibly tanky throughout the entire playthrough. Second, her cooldown is insanely low, meaning she'll be able to recycle attacks very quickly. Thirdly, she unlocks incredibly strong passives in her skill tree right from the beginning. Most notably, she has a 200 to 300% party-wide damage increase to launch enemies. This is key in the speedrun and is used to eliminate the hardest bosses in the playthrough. Another note If she is placed with the party member Nia, Crossette has a break skill which will allow players to perform the topple and launch strategy. Finally, Crossette has a unique ability in this title to multiply damage. She does this through picking up potions dropped by attacking the enemy. Every potion she picks up in battle is a 60% increase to party damage. This damage additive caps at 500%. That is absolutely nuts. Mix this potion ability with a driver combo or fusion combo and you have your party doing endgame damage right from the beginning. To summarize all this, Crossette nearly single-handedly breaks a speedrun. So much so that they had to make an entirely new category for the DLC. Number 3. The next speedrun is an incredibly popular one with nearly 300 active runners, and that is Final Fantasy VII. Now, the any percent glitchless run ran at about 6 hours for quite a while, and the game has been nearly optimized for the speedrun. Many of the strategies have changed over the years, but one has stayed pretty much consistent since its inception. And that is the Tifa Power Soul strat. A speedrun of this game uses a bunch of different strategies, with the main gimmick being the use of grenades to do damage and strategic use of limit breaks. There's also the incredibly important enemy skill, Big Guard, which casts barrier, magic barrier, and haste on the entire party. If you can make it past the run killer, that is Demon Gate, and make it past Cosmo Canyon, you can get Tifa Lockhart's mid-game weapon, the Power Soul. This weapon is found at Mount Nibble, and man, is it an amazing exploit. Power Soul's damage doubles when Tifa's HP is in critical. It quadruples if she has the status effect Death Sentence. And you want to know the craziest thing? Both of these effects stack. So if a player equips Tifa with Power Soul, keeps her HP in the critical, and casts Death Sentence on her, Tifa will reach endgame damage numbers from that point forward. Using Death Blow, she has a chance of hitting for 9,999 damage, as long as the hit to her accuracy doesn't cause her to miss. Overall, Tifa, along with Big Guard, is what makes the second half of Final Fantasy VII speedrun even remotely possible. Number 2. Another smaller community built around a fascinating speedrun is the any percent glitchless speedrun of Legend of Dragoon. This year, the player Lasagnium was able to get a sub 10-hour run for the world record. Because of its smaller following, this speedrun evolved over time. For much of its history, the busted character Meru was key because of her natural speed and high magic. Because of her speed, she would often take multiple turns before the enemy, making her tactically viable. In earlier speedruns, the main party would be Dart, who is a required party member, and Rose, then Haschel in the late game. This strategy prevailed for quite a while until two important strats were optimized. The first was the use of multi-hit permanent attack items, such as the Psychic Bomb. In Legend of Dragoon, attack items do a set amount of damage that can be enhanced via pressing the X button multiple times. If you use a turbo controller and a party member with a high magic stat, this will optimize the item's damage. The second strat was that of leveling. You see, experience obtained at the end of battle is divided out to all party members whose HP didn't drop to 0. This means that by the end of battle, if 2 of your 3 party members were dead, then the living party member would receive 100% of the experience. Both of these strategies just so happen to be perfectly applied to the character Shana, who is replaced later by Miranda. So we'll refer to them both as Sharonda. Sharonda's highest magic stat and early access completely changed the Legend of Dragoon playthrough. Because of this, Miru was completely eliminated in the run, and players would instead spend their playthrough boosting Sharonda's level. This new strategy was unironically dubbed the Wonder Woman route. With Sharonda's level boost, attack item damage went through the roof. In the endgame, runners would obtain the busted permanent attack item Psychic Bomb X from the Courage trial, which allowed them to take out all of the endgame baddies. Overall, the discovery of Sharonda led to the current sub 10-hour run of Legend of Dragoon. Number 1. One of the most impressive RPG speedruns to watch is that of the any percent glitchless original versions of Pokémon. It's incredible how simple yet complex this run is. The entire speedrun is contingent on the male Pokémon Nidoran and its final evolution Nidoking. What's amazing about this Pokémon is that you can have a Nidoking immediately after beating the first gym leader. Now there are a few tactics at play here to manipulate this game and its required fights. Nidoking's crazy stats and attacks can handle much of the first few battles. The biggest trick, though, comes towards the latter half, when you reach Celadon City and can purchase Accuracy X items. You see, Accuracy X is a one-time use item that makes the Pokemon have perfect accuracy. This works across every attack, including the low accuracy attack, Horn Drill. This combination one-shots nearly every Pokemon from this point forward. The most interesting part of this run comes towards the end. The Elite Four are challenging in a regular playthrough, so using a single underleveled Pokemon makes it even worse. Lorelei and Bruno go down fairly easy, but Agatha and Lance are a whole different story. Lance ends up being a late game run killer as its Gyarados Hydro Pump can kill Nidoking if it crits. If you get past that though, Ice Beam takes out the rest of the dragon types. After that, you Horn Drill your rival to oblivion and you have a current world record of 1 hour and 44 minutes. And that's our list. How did I do? What are some absolutely broken characters and speedruns I didn't mention? Thank you to all my Patreon members and their support, and be sure to check the links in the description for the videos I used as well as a link to my Patreon page. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you all later.